G'day everybody, we're back. Two Ordinary Cops, and yeah, we're all over the place again, mate. I'm in Cardwell, just outside of Cairns. How are you, mate?
Yeah, mate,
Yeah,
I'm not too bad. I'm sitting in my same old place in Brisbane. Still doing, we're still doing the six jobs between us, mate. But I'll tell you what, tonight we have a pretty incredible guest. It's I've read his book. It's probably a big thing for me. He's somebody I look up to. I think, we always had those great senior officers that taught us the ropes. But the person we have on tonight is Keith Banks. Now, Keith was a Queensland copper, started in the 70s. He then was one of basically the introduction into CERT into Queensland. But we'll let him tell the story about that. But I'm very, very honoured to be able to actually introduce Keith and get him to tell his story. Keith, mate, how are you?
yeah, well, mate, thanks for your very kind words. I'm sort of, blushing. And the whole senior officer, fuck, because I am old. Yeah, good point.
You got us covered, Keith. That's all right. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
No, thanks, guys. I appreciate the offer.
All right. Excellent. Hey, Keith, look, what I really like here is I have a bit of a personal connection. My uncle was in the Queensland Police joined in the early 80s, and he spoke a lot about how wild it could be back then. There was very violent, especially around Ipswich, that southeast corner, and other places, of course. But what I'm really interested in is I've had a fair bit to do, not as an operator, but I've operated quite a bit as a negotiator with police tactical groups. And all I ever saw was extreme professionalism from every jurisdiction. Not that I worked with every other jurisdiction, but the beauty of what you can tell us is you were there at the infancy of this kind of idea of police tactical groups. And I'm just really interested to hear about that. I mean, but your whole story, but I mean, that sort of thing is really interesting, the early days of that police tactical group. So I'm just wondering, would you like to sort of
Yeah,
take us back through your early career and what led into that sort of direction?
yeah, no problem, mate. So, God, I joined the academy in '75 as a cadet. We had a cadet system where you could do years 11, 12 at the academy, and then another 12 months of training until you're old enough to be sworn in. I came in the second year contingent, so I did year 12, did another 12 months of the academy, um, haircuts, yelled at, ironed uniforms, all that sort of stuff that probably doesn't happen too much these days. But good days, challenging days. So 2 years in the academy and then sworn in when I turned 19 in May in '77. So then did the usual stuff, walked the beat, worked in mobile patrols, and mobile patrols was something I could talk about for hours. Was a concept that I've never seen anywhere else in Australia. It was a uniform station of I think around 200, 250 coppers. You worked with a permanent partner. You patrolled the same area each shift, and the team itself were all permanent. So based on the LAPD model of just out on the road patrolling, we weren't sitting in stations waiting for Mrs. Smith to come in and complain about the cat next door. We, in briefing, hit the road, and your role was to respond to every hot job. Um, we also, we took burglary complaints and traffic accidents, of course, but predominantly we're on the road to respond, and we're on the road to hunt crooks. So it was a great couple of years. Loved it, really loved it. Went from there into undercover work because I'd through a certain set of circumstances discovered there were undercover coppers, and that's where the I suppose the buzz and the rush was, and I had that naive, youthful, want to change the world attitude, and we had a lot of heroin in the country, had a lot of ODs, and I thought that was a meaningful thing to do. Plus, I have to be really honest as well. The ability to grow your hair and put an earring in and grow a beard and dress like fucking anything you wanted to was pretty appealing as well. Um, but I didn't really know what I was letting myself in for. So there were no training courses in those days. We were just basically thrown out in the deep end. Go and leave, grow a beard, because in those days coppers weren't allowed to have beards unless it was an extreme medical issue. So the first thing you did was grow a beard and throw an earring in, yeah. And I was a little baby-faced guy, so I looked nothing like a copper even when I was in uniform. So it was a pretty good fit. Challenge was, though, the undercover world. I never drank, I never smoked, certainly hadn't used drugs. I was a clean skin fucking babe in the woods, really, until I started learning how to talk drug talk. Yeah, we'd we'd be set up with an informant, generally a cook who was probably trying to cut out his opposition. So he'd introduce into a circle. We'd buy drugs. We'd vouch for the evidence. We'd record it all in a notebook, hide the notebook, blah blah blah. And I graduated into buying a lot of heroin. I became very good at that because I could understand business pretty intuitively, I suppose. So I did all of that for a couple of years. Saw some fucking horrible things. People getting shot up in front of me, people getting bashed. Almost got ripped off a few times. Guy was admitted that he was setting me up to kill me after a job, and the arrest team got to him first. All of that sort of stuff. So back to uniform after 2 years because I thought, yeah, I can't do this forever. And a couple of my mates had gone off the rails. One developed a heroin habit, and another guy fell into some other naughtiness, and I just thought, yeah, time to go back and be a normal copper. The problem was when you spend 2 years deep undercover, different identities, assumed names, all of that sort of stuff. It's almost impossible to seamlessly slip back into where you were. So I realised after I'd left, and probably didn't realise at the time, but I certainly do now, that I came out of undercover. I came out of undercover with a drinking problem. I could pull cones with the best of them.
Yeah.
Smoking cigarettes when I was on the gas, all that sort of shit, and a complete different lifestyle change. But what I did have also was an addiction to adrenaline. I needed to do something in policing that was at the sharp end. I couldn't go back and just be a normal copper. So had 6 months in uniform, and I joined what was called the emergency squad. So way before CERT. And the emergency squad was maybe 25 blokes, I reckon, who were all part-timers, generally detectives, but some uniformed coppers who'd been were Vietnam veterans. And we trained with the Army at Greenbank in Brisbane 4 days a month. So we were out there, we learned how to use SLRs, the old 7.62 rifles, the M16 Armalite, the 5.56. We had sniper rifles. We had 870p Remington Wingmaster shotguns, which I still think are the best weapon in the world. Wheel guns in those days, long before 9mm semi-automatics were even thought of, I guess. And to be honest, the first probably year or so, that training was good, but it wasn't great. It was really coppers teaching each other how to shoot under the guidance of the Army. And the Army didn't really understand much about policing techniques and rules of engagement. So we were sort of a mix between, the trusty old warrant officers and sergeants telling us how to double tap and fucking shoot everybody and so on, and then trying to balance that with the realities of policing. But around late 82, I reckon it would have been, under the National Anti-Terrorist Plan, the SAS, Special Air Service instructors started travelling around the country. So running training for the police. They weren't called the police tactical groups in those days. They were actually called police assault groups. So the SASR had the TAG, so Tactical Assault Group Responsibility, as they still do, sharing with two commandos. And we were the police assault group. So the goal was to upskill all the teams around the country to get them to a level where they could be the initial response to a terrorist incident, with the ability to do an emergency action plan if necessary, go in, assault the stronghold, save the hostages. Now, I was about 25, I reckon, 24, 25 at the time, and I thought, fuck, this is the go. This is absolutely where I want to be. And I got pretty good at it, I reckon. So much so, without seeming like a wanker, I was approached by the inspector who was in charge of the whole dog squad, emergency squad, very small bomb response squad in those days. And he got me after a 2-week training course at Land Warfare Centre Canungra, which is where we used to train every year for 2 weeks. Got me after that course and said, listen, mate, I need to have a chat. I've got approval to start a small full-time contingent of a tactical response team. Are you interested? And I was a detective senior connie. I'd been appointed as designated as a detective, all that sort of shit. And I just went, shit, where do I start? How do I get there? What can I do? and it required going back officially to a uniform position. Didn't care about that. And so I started as a full-time, one of the first full-time members of the Tactical Response Group in May 1987, and that was just the absolute be-all and end-all for me. I thought I'd stay in there until I retired. I'd been sent on a bomb disposal course the year before, as part of the, we want to develop you into this attitude, which was great. And I know I'm probably, it's very hard for coppers to push their own barrow, isn't it? And I'm just,
Sure.
so all bullshit aside, the boss said, look, we love how you're developing, we love what you do, we want to upskill you. So sent me to Bandiana with the Army for a 4-week course in bomb disposal, which is where I met my first Northern Territory coppers on this 4-week course. And holy Jesus, great blokes, but drinking was clearly compulsory in Darwin. So
It's a way of life.
and
Yeah.
oh mate, and back in those days, I don't know what the costs are now. So I haven't been on a military base for a while, but the beer was cheap. It was like 35 cents for a handle, a mug with a handle, whatever that equates to. So this bloke from the Northern Territory sitting in the mess after training, because we were blowing shit up and all that sort of stuff. And he looked at me and said, "You know what, Banksy? The more you drink, the more you save." I went, okay. So I had 4 weeks of that, and I loved them. And there were coppers from all around the country in the police. So they were a mix then of scientific and fingerprint had the responsibility for the bomb area. We in Queensland were tactical guys, so we had the responsibility as part of our role. The Victorians had it as part of their special operations role. But I think from memory, all the rest of them were, scientific something. Which, no offense to the scientific guys, but they were boring as bad shit.
That's a totally different, complete personality difference of note. That would have been a really interesting thing to watch.
Well, yeah, and so we hooked up with the Victorian guys because they were our people, and we hooked up with the Tasmania was scientific as well, but we hooked up with the Northern Territory guys because they were from the original TRG, and we had our own little tribe within this interesting mix, but it was great because it was my first exposure to the fact that there were coppers all around the country, or in certain places of the country, who were just like I was. They were keen. They were bloody focused on tactical work. They could shoot. They were hard, fit blokes, and loved it. So after I was put in the full-time role a year later, I was sent to the SAS area, the SAS site headquarters, whatever you want to call it, in Campbell Barracks in Perth. And I did a police assault group instructors course, a counter-terrorist instructors course there, and just loved it as well. And it just, the only difference between a good shot and a bad shot, 5,000 rounds. So we were shooting every day, almost all day, and then learning how to breach and learning how to do all of the fun stuff, but also how to give orders and how to instruct and how to upskill our people. Brilliant, and then came back, again, top of my game, thought I'd do this forever. And then anyone who's read my second book will know that we did an operation 29 July 1987 that resulted in the shooting murder of one of my guys. And I call it a murder. I used to refer to it as death or a shooting, but later in life, when I realized how fucked up I was with PTSD, my shrink, who I found was one of the only ones that could help me after a succession of them, she said, you need to call it out for what it is, mate. And anyone listening to this podcast, this may well resonate with you, and I hope it does. She said, you have witnessed at close hand a murder of one of your colleagues and your friend. And it was a shootout. Yeah. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. But when she said that sort of clicked into place, because I'd fucking been, 4 feet away from a bloke when he shot 5 times with a 223 rifle, and that's, regardless of your training, regardless of your police experience, that's fucking traumatic. Particularly when he was dying in the room and passed away later. So that was a job, and I won't belabor it too much, but it was still makes me pretty fucking angry even after all these years. We were tasked with preparing an operation order for a raid on Queensland's #1 most wanted, a violent piece of work, an armed robber. Tasked with that on the Monday morning. He had been identified as the offender in 3 or 4 or 5 pretty violent armed robs around Brisbane. And in those days, yeah, Brisbane was a violent place. It was violent even when I was walking the beat. But this guy was he was firing shots and carrying on, and he was an escapee from Long Bay. He had shot a guy in the back in Perth, I think, and crippled him for no reason other than he felt like it. So he's just a psychopathic piece of shit. And we were tasked with the job, so we planned it. This was the week that our Royal Commission into Police Corruption and Government Misconduct had started, right, the Fitzgerald inquiry. And things weren't looking good. And look, most of us knew that there were bent coppers. Most of them were senior. A handful of them, the majority of coppers I worked with were good, straight, honest people, men and women. But there were a handful of corrupt pricks who were pretty much running the department, and it had been going on for years. So the inquiry was uncovering a fair bit of that, and the media reports weren't great. So we were told, normally in a tactical world, the tactical team decides when they will do an entry. If they are going to do an entry, they will decide the timing, the approach, and the environment. We were told when to do it. We were told to go in at a certain time on the Wednesday morning, and I firmly believe that was because it would have given the newspapers time enough to put a headline in place, which would be police capture #1 most wanted, to take attention away from the pretty bad media coverage they were getting with the inquiry. That's the first thing that really sticks in my craw. The second was that my mate Peter Kidd, who was killed in that job. Pete was another full-timer. He and I were appointed full-timers on the same day. We joined the squad as part-timers on the same day. And he'd done the SAS course the year before me, I think. Very, very capable guy. And he also was in charge of the equipment. So equipment assessment, equipment purchase for the team. He put a report in probably 3 months before this shooting, urgently recommending that our bullet-resistant vests were upgraded. We were only issued with level 2 vests in those days, and they were you guys probably may or may not remember them. They were the white vests that sat under your shirt or under your blacks. They were only ever designed or efficient or effective against handgun fire and shotguns. Even a .22 rifle would go through them. And this guy was using a 223 Mini 14 when he opened fire on us. So Kitty had put that in, and it had been knocked back because of budget. Third thing, we put the operation order together. Given the fact that I'd just come back from the SAS and I was all over this shit, I knew exactly what we needed to do. It was a house. We decided to do the entry because we discounted taking him out in a vehicle. He was always armed. He would have opened up without a problem, so civilians are at risk. Same reason for taking him out on foot, because he used to walk this massive bloody Rhodesian ridgeback or something every day. Same reason. So we thought, the only way we can get him is to go in and smash the door down. Thought about negotiators, thought about surrounding and containing, but he was living with a woman with 2 little kids. And our intelligence led us to believe that he would take them hostage, and we'd create a really bad situation. So the operation order we put together was involving the use of tear gas, distraction grenades or flashbangs, to give us the ability to crack in through the back door with a diversion in the front, just classic tactical work. That went to police headquarters and was knocked back because whoever, I won't name him, I know who it was, this fucking idiot, just because you get promoted to commission rank doesn't mean you're necessarily smart. Right? He decided in his infinite wisdom that using tear gas was too dangerous because there were kids in the house, not understanding or asking the question about how we deliver the gas, which would have been straight into the bedroom, and the kids are on the other side of the house. But anyway, and he also refused the use of distraction grenades. And I believe this numbnuts saw the word grenade and thought, oh, we can't be using that, but we don't have grenades in police. And You know what I mean? And so rather than ask the question, which is what a leader would do, he relied on the bird shit on his shoulders, which obviously endowed him with superior intelligence, and knocked the thing back. So here we were executing a forced entry on a violent psychopath who'd proven himself through his actions previously that he would not hesitate to open fire. And he had told people if ever the coppers came, he was going to shoot it out. So insufficient vests, not able to use gas and flashbangs, and basically just crash your way in. And we did that. And he absolutely was ready for us. It was 5:30 a.m. I would have preferred to have gone in much earlier, but again, told when we had to. So the only thing that we could do to cause some sort of diversion was I spoke to a team, a ladder team outside his bedroom window, and it was about 2 meters, maybe 1.8 meters from the ground. And I said to these guys, when you hear a smashing in through the back door, throw the ladder through the window to make him believe you're coming up through the window. They did that within less than half a second. He was out of bed and fired 2 rounds through the skirting board where a team would be climbing the ladder, so it was on. So we went into the house and he just opened fire. And Kitty was shot 5 times, 4 in the body, 1 in the wrist through this shit vest. Another bloke, Steve, who was my best mate, and he and I'd been sharing a unit for years. We'd worked together for years. He was shot in the abdomen, thankfully survived. And then 2 of us entered the bedroom and the offender was killed. So never had a problem with that. Never lost a microsecond of sleep over that. But Kitty died in hospital that morning, and that sent me on a downward spiral. And I now understand it now. I knew there was something wrong then, but I went through the classic, nightmares, flashbacks, alcohol, all of that initially, and it's important, I guess, for younger coppers to understand who will be listening to this, because I know you've got a good following, that there was no psychological support. It didn't exist in those days, because we didn't shoot people up much. Mind you, we started shooting the fuckers a fair bit after this one, because, it was quite a few of us decided it was never going to happen again. So no psychological support, no real affirmation that's part of a major preventative tactic for trauma. Yeah, affirmation, support, conversation, none of that. We basically, Peter died on the Wednesday. We had the police funeral on the Friday, and back to work. And between that, I was still at work. There was no stand down, etc. That morning, we were interviewed by the homicide squad, rightly so. And we had a police club on the top floor of the CIB headquarters in those days. And you had a police club up there as well, and they don't exist anymore. I reckon probably not a good thing, because it was a place to decompress. But at any rate, the homies interviewed us and then took us upstairs and got us on the gas, which was their way of trying to look after us, for sure. But that really marked the beginning of a lot of years of using alcohol as a coping mechanism for me. And I was just traumatized. I know that now. But then in those days, no one had heard of post-traumatic stress. Yeah. It wasn't really, I suppose, discovered is the wrong word, but it wasn't realized until probably maybe the early 90s in the US, maybe then. And then the conversation started. But by that stage, I was fucked. I would go to work, come home, get on the piss, drink easily half a bottle of scotch a night, after a few beer entrees, just so I could sleep. And then get up in the morning, go to work, run 5 or 6 or 7 Ks, get it out of my system, go to the range, shoot, organise jobs, engage in jobs, whatever, because we were getting a lot of work then, a lot of high-risk jobs, escorts, raids, etc. So I did that. I did that for maybe 2 years after Kitty was killed. And we had some sieges where we shot people, and we did other pretty heavy jobs, because I think it just changed the mindset of the team. he was well liked and respected, and it sent a tremor through the team. And I, yeah, it would have been about 2 years later. I realised that my whole attitude and personality was changing. I wanted to be on every job I could that had the potential of dropping the hammer on a crook. I wanted to shoot people. I wanted to hurt them. I wanted to be in that team where there was any slight chance that there might be gunplay. I was there. Yeah. And I realised after we went to a siege on the Gold Coast, I don't know, 12, 18 months after Kitty was killed, that I was in danger of losing myself to that whole dark side. And I'm a nice guy. I say that myself. I'm actually not a good bloke. And here I was waiting for any fucking opportunity to smash through a door and shoot someone in the head. And that's when we did. I didn't shoot him, but there was a guy was shot that night. And I woke up the next morning and thought, oh, fuck, I think I've got some problems. Because I was pissed off that it wasn't me that was doing the shooting, And I realised over the next few months that if I didn't do something about this, I would probably squeeze the trigger when I shouldn't. And that would have all manner of consequences. Didn't care about me, but I cared about the team. I cared about the reputation, all of that stuff. And backtrack a bit. Probably 6 weeks after Flashdance, when Kitty was killed, I sat at home, put a gun in my mouth one night, pissed, because the other operator and I who'd fired shots and killed the offender were told there was a contract in our heads from organised crime group in Sydney, quite a credible threat. So we were given permission to carry our 9mm pistols with us off duty. I carried mine for 2 years. So one night, my girlfriend was out at a work function. She wasn't a copper. And I basically was sitting there, would have been right into 2/3 of a bottle of scotch. And I remember just looking at this pistol, because it never left my side, and thinking, geez, if I actually took myself out, then all the pain would go away. And the age-old question we all ask about, is there life after death? That'll be answered. I was fucking 29 years old. And I racked one up, racked around into the racked a slide to get around in the chamber, put it in my mouth, and just thought, all I've got to do is squeeze the trigger, and I'll know the answer. And I had a sudden memory of a suicide I'd gone to, where this guy had blown the top of his head off with a 303 rifle, and all the brain spatter and the smell and the blood and we've all seen it. And I thought, shit, if I do this and my girlfriend comes home, that'll ruin her life forever. So it wasn't about me not killing myself; it was about ruining her life. And that's when I thought, fuck, what am I doing? And took this thing out of my mouth and unloaded it, stripped it, put the slide in one part of the house and the frame in the other and the magazine in the other. And then woke up the next morning and thought, fuck, I've got some problems. But I didn't do anything about it because I didn't know what we could do. There wasn't any opportunity to talk to someone. You certainly wouldn't go to work and say, hey, Damo, I was going to shoot myself last night. Oh, no worries, mate. Yeah, fucking good to see you. Log on. So it was they were different times, mate. Yeah. And all the blokes in the crew, all the blokes in the group, we're all alpha males. We're all hard, RHTCs. And RHTCs, for your non-tactical people, was a little phrase that we used widely, and probably still is, I think, for tactical operators, and it means real hard tough cunts. And that's how we saw ourselves, RHTCs. So you didn't talk about emotions, and you didn't talk about any of that stuff that might be a bit, oh, hang on a minute, you're not as strong as I thought you were. You just kept all that shit bottled up. So move on, fast forward back to where I realised it was just starting to overtake me, and I went to my mate who was the senior sergeant and said, look, I'm fucked. I don't want to go back to uniform, but I probably need to go. And so we negotiated a transfer into the Bureau of Criminal Intelligence in those days, which was intelligence desks on Italian organised crime, pedophilia, painters and dockers, blah, 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 and bikies, outlaw motorcycle gangs. So I got transferred to the BCI, got right out of tactical, although, I was still a tactical operator at heart. because we in the BCI ran a surveillance team as well. So we'd often take crooks out in vehicle stops, high risk vehicle stops. So loved all of that. So I was getting, the opportunity to do that, which sort of fulfilled that tactical longing and need that I had. Plus, I could grow my hair again, put my earring back in, and just not look like a copper, which I loved. Always loved it. So running surveillance teams, traveling all over the state, it was bit of a joke. So when winter had hit Brisbane, and now not living in Brisbane, living in Melbourne, I know what winter is. When winter had hit Brisbane, I'd go to my boys. It's getting a bit cold, mate. All right, boys, let's put our head together and see what job we can come up with in Cairns. So we'd often be flown to Cairns and run surveillance on meth labs and dope dealers and smack dealers and whatever up there. So it was a pretty good life. And I was promoted to detective sergeant there. And I think about 3 years in, I'd been part of a national anti-bikie task force, so worked around the country with that. Went to various music festival events run by OMCGs around the country. That's a great way they launder their money. And our role was to disrupt the Hells Angels World Run that was to take place in '94, I think, in Adelaide. So we worked on that for So in between my regular job, I was on a plane and going and working with the other wing clipping guys around the country. Short story, we actually gathered enough credible intelligence, put a major report to the Attorney General through the Australian BCI, and disrupted their world run beautifully by having all their visas refused. So any Hells Angels out there who may be listening, sorry boys, we won, you lost. So
yeah, not sorry, not sorry.
That's right. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah. And then I had someone who I respected say, "Look, Banksy, you can stay here, but if you want to get promoted, you need to move back to crime operations, so CIB again." So I did that. I did a lateral transfer back to crime operations, in those days a major crime squad, and worked there until I resigned. And I resigned in February '95. And the reason I resigned, again, I've written about it in the book, and Schulte would have read it. I was running a couple of covert operations as part of my job, and one Saturday, and I'm what's known as a shit magnet. Wherever I'd go, there'd be some fucking crisis, right? So, finished meeting my undercover guy.
Yeah. Sorry, mate. We're all bloody shit, man.
Oh, mate. Because it was not uncommon for someone to turn up to a hot job and go, "Banksy, what the fuck are you doing here?" I don't know. It's just passing by. So this day we'd met the covert guys, taken the evidence, did all that sort of shit, and we're heading back into the city to knock off via Queen Street before it became a mall, where we could just look at all the girls,
Yep.
normal red-blooded males.
Yep.
And as we're heading back, there was any unit call to shots fired in this major building in the centre of the city. So the MLT building was about 27 or 28 stories, I think, landmark in Brisbane. And shot fired, male armed with a rifle. And the first thing I thought was, Hoddle Street massacre in Melbourne, Queen Street massacre in Melbourne, Strathfield massacre in Sydney. This is long before John Howard's legislation to ban certain types of firearms, because you could actually go in to any Kmart and buy a 30-round semi-automatic Mini 14 223, or a Remington 870p shotty, because I bought one. I handed it in the years later. It broke my heart. But so anyway, guns available, massacres were happening with too much frequency. So I thought, shit, this is going to be another one. So of course I raced in, jumped out of the car in a pair of jeans and a polo shirt. My hair was always longer than it should have been, and grabbed my gun. The old. I still carried a J-frame 5-shot Smith & Wesson 38 because I really liked the compact thing. I was wasn't pretty good. I was a bloody good shot with it, etc. This is before 9mm were issued as standard. 9mm semi-automatics were only still tactical. So essentially raced up the stairs to where this was, saw there was no inner cordon, formed an inner cordon, took control, just leapt straight back into that tactical world. Got the media over the other side of the street, blah, blah, blah. And ran up to the foyer. There was a few coppers milling around, and not milling around, they were there, just without really much direction, I guess. So I just said to a uniform sergeant, "Where is this prick?" And he just pointed sort of around the corner. It was in the foyer of this building. And I did a quick peek around, weapon. And there's a guy sitting there with a rifle across his lap, a cardboard box that I later found out had 15 sticks of AN-60 gelignite and 3 electronic detonators, all wired in series and ready to go, and army webbing. And I sort of looked and he said, train my weapon on him. And he said, "If you don't put that fucking gun down, I'll blow the whole place up." And I looked and thought, shit, I think that's gelignite. Fuck. For whatever reason. And I don't know what the definition of bravery is. I don't think bravery is absolute courage. I think bravery or courage is just doing shit because you think it has to be done. Yeah. And so handed my gun to the uniform sergeant, took a few steps in and just said, "How you doing?" And I hadn't been trained as a negotiator. I was an assaulter. Yeah, I was an operator, but I'd seen negotiators work. And as you know, Damo, the first thing is, "My name's Keith, what's yours?" So started talking to him, and I said, "So what do you got in the box, Frank?" And he pulled up loose piece of gelignite, about a half a stick of AN-60, and tossed it towards me. And I caught it, and it was sweating. So sweating, for those uninitiated, nitroglycerin is the active explosive component. It was sweating through the brown wrapper, which made it incredibly unstable. If you dropped it on the floor, it might have gone bang. Thank fuck I had good hair night. So, handed it to the uniform guy and said, "Take this out. Fucking let, whoever's out there, because they're bound to be bosses and others by now, let them know what's going on." So, and to his credit, this guy came back in. We left the building, I think, 2 or 3 times during this whole negotiation process. And the uniform guy, Mel, kept coming back in with me. So, big balls. So in essence, I spent the next hour and a half talking to this guy, Frank, about, what can I do? I know I had no idea what I was doing, but what can I do for you to give me the rifle? And at the time he had a full packet of Craven A, I remember, and he's lighting up darts, smoking darts over this fucking unstable gelignite. Jesus Christ. So, and then and then he said, "Oh, I'll give you the rifle for a 6-pack." I went, "Mate, can't give you a 6-pack for fuck's sake, but let me see what I can do." So I went outside, and there was an inspector there who it turned out was the operator who'd been with me when Peter was killed. So he'd moved from the tactical world to, he's now a commissioned officer. And I said, "Look, this is the status. We get him a pot of light beer, I'll get the rifle." And he said, "Well, fuck, you can't do that. That's against the rules." Yeah. And again, I think about corporate and policing parallels a fair bit. You can take a risk as long as it's a calculated one. And I thought, one pot of light beer is not going to send him off his fucking chops. If it does, I'll deal with it then. But to get a rifle, a high-powered rifle away from him, break the rules, fuck the rules, that's what we do. And I said to the boss, I was only a detective sergeant, he was an inspector, pretty much that. And I said, "Look, if it all fucks up in reality and it goes to shit, you can blame me. But I think this is going to establish trust," which it did. Got a pot of light beer, came back in, handed him the beer, and he pretty much downed it. Must have been brought up in Darwin, because he downed it all in about one swallow. And then he handed me the rifle. Perfect, great stuff. So there were, as I said, 15 sticks of gelignite in this thing. And he had a 12-volt Dolphin, the old Dolphin torch batteries, the big ones?
Yep.
Had one of those sitting beside him. The 2 wires were bared, so bared as in the insulation's pulled back. All he needed to do was touch them, the positive, negative, we're all gone. And so essentially I just sat there and talked to him. The thing about this story that still really resonates powerfully with me is that as he sort of got to trust me a bit, and it became sort of he and I against the world, because I became his mate, or I became someone who's on his side, Although during this hour and a half, he just went up and down. He threatened to kill me, then he wouldn't kill me, then he threatened to kill me, and so on. But he started to talk about his background, and the way that he was holding the weapon, I thought, as soon as when I first saw it, I thought, this guy's got training, because it was, the finger outside the guard, blah blah blah. Yeah, Vietnam veteran, assault pioneer. And assault pioneers are those people that blow shit up. Hence, he knew what he was doing with this IED. And then, he'd come back, and it was just a classic, sad story that you hear from so many veterans. Came back, couldn't assimilate, marriage broke up, turned to piss, drank, met a woman, had a child with her, that fell over, and he was just this poor, bloody, wayward soul, I reckon. And I think it's important for coppers to have compassion, by the way. So, and I just thought, fucking poor bastard. Mind you, if I upset him at that stage, I have no doubt he would have killed us. So, and when he was talking to me, he was talking about, when I got him to sort of relax with me a bit more, he was talking about, guess what? Nightmares, flashbacks, hypervigilance, anger, alcohol. And I'm thinking, fuck, that's all the shit that I'm going through. And I had this almost realization that, fuck, I'm not the only one. Wow. So that was in the back of my mind. And Jesus, But he's an army veteran, so that's understandable. That's another story. But it took me years to realize that it's okay for coppers to have PTSD when I realized what it was. But so we're talking about all of that. And I just had this real rapport with him. And it's not as straightforward as it sounds now. And here's a shameless marketing plug. If you want to know the whole story, buy my book. Because in this, yeah, there you go. So shortly, there's a lot more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
But after, sort of that hour and a half, we got to the stage where I thought he trusted me, and I reckoned I was about to get him out of the building. When he sort of lost his shit again a bit and pulled in the army webbing and pulled a fucking hand grenade out, and then took the pin out of the hand grenade. And I thought, oh man. I thought even if I got up and ran, there's probably 5 seconds before releasing the firing pin, the fuse hits, the thing goes boom, and it would have sympathetically detonated the 15 sticks of gelic nuts. So I was fucked either way. And that's when I didn't get angry, but I just almost lost my shit with him and said, mate, I've got enough fucking nightmares in my life now. I don't want you to be another one. Just please put the pin back in. Let's talk about it. And it took him, I don't know, it's hard to tell. 10 seconds seems like an hour. He put the pin back in after 10, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, something like that. And I remember he looked at me and said, you're fair dinkum, mate. And I said, yeah, mate, I am. And he went, okay. So then we started talking about stuff again. And but when I realised I had him, and as a negotiator, you'll appreciate this, mate. When I realised I had him was, we had pagers in those days, long before mobile phones. And my pager was on Audible and it went off. And so did he. He said, tell those fuckers you're not available, you're with me. And I went, oh, hang on, mate. Can I just have a read of it? So I picked it up and it was from my new girlfriend who said, you're late, where are you? Because I was supposed to pick her up from the city in the police car and take her home. The covert car, right? And I've gone, oh, fuck, just like this. And he said, what's wrong? And I said, oh, I'm a chick, mate. I'm in the shit because I was about an hour late picking her up. And he looked at me, which is what coppers say, yeah? Because, I mean, like, you know, we're like, and he said, oh, he said, well, it'll be okay, Keith, because when you get home tonight and you tell her what's happened, she'll understand. I thought, fucking got ya.
Gotcha.
Because he could see an end. Yeah, he could see a light at the end of the tunnel. Go, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I just agree with you. I'm just saying
so,
that's the classic, the gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, the gotcha moment, isn't it cool? Yeah. And then he, the only thing he asked me was, he said, if I come out with you, can you not put me in handcuffs? No problem at all, mate. Walked him out the front, and there's news footage that's quite infamous, famous, whatever, of us walking out to the police car, him in handcuffs, just looking like a couple of old mates having a chat. The very cool ending to this story is that when I gave evidence in the committal hearing, I don't know, 3 or 4 months later or something, gave evidence. I was asked by his defence what I thought his state of mind was, and I did the usual. not a psychiatrist, can't comment it, but my observations were, that he was struggling mentally, that he was emotional, about blah, blah, blah. Anyway, as I was walking past the dock, he just said, "Keith, have you got a minute?" He put his hand out and shook my hand and said, "Thanks for saving my life, mate." And that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
That's very cool.
So, yeah, people ask me, after in 20 years of policing, what do I think is my best result, and that's it. That's it for sure. And so, time moves on. I get decorated with 2 Valor Award medals. Still the only one in Queensland, I believe, who has 2 of them. One was for Operation Flashdance, where Kitty was murdered, and the other was for the MLC siege. And that's all good. It's all very nice. The media, papers, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, no, I didn't think, I'll go back a bit. At that time, I thought getting the medals might have helped my mental state, my emotional state, but no. I was still in this whole bloody midst of darkness and probably depression, certainly PTSD. And I was starting to read about this thing called post-traumatic stress disorder. And I research as much as I could. I go to university libraries and find articles on it to try and figure it all out. And the symptoms were what I was experiencing. But I had this attitude that I couldn't have PTSD. That was for soldiers who'd done really dangerous shit, right? Not me. Fuck. And so I didn't sort of equate the two, but I didn't even think about psychologists or counsellors. They were right outside my experience and certainly outside my world. And I thought, well, I'll just battle through it. The consequences of what I was going through made me fucking angry at the drop of a hat. I didn't put up with shit from bosses anymore. Even though it's a paramilitary organisation, you're supposed to say yes or no, so I wouldn't. I just fucking pulled them on. If there was something I thought was bullshit, I'd make my point of view known. Didn't do me any favours. And I applied for a detective senior sergeant spot back with the BCI and didn't get it. That's okay. I thought, oh, well, So I asked for an interview with the superintendent in charge and give me some feedback about why. So he begrudgingly agreed. Fucking supercilious wanker that he was. And and I went in to talk to him, and he just bullshitted for at least 40 minutes about there were criteria then for promotion, which included the ability to make quick decisions in emergency situations. He said, well, you rated very poorly on that. And I went, a what? He said, oh, yeah, you rated very poorly on that. The panel thought, blah, 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 which is all bullshit. And I said, so let me get this right. So I have 2 Valor Awards, the highest medal that Queensland police officers can get for my actions in emergency situations, and I can't make a decision. Well, that's what the panel told me, and I thought, and that anger that I had, I just literally wanted to reach across and grab him by the throat and smash him, and that's almost uncontrollable, that red mist when you're in the midst of PTSD, and I remember taking a breath. Then he just bullshitted around for something. And I looked at him and said, listen, Superintendent, what is the problem? Because what you've told me so far is crap. And he said, right. He said, you want to know the truth? I'll tell you the truth. And he said, you're too outspoken. You're too challenging of authority. You're too supportive of the people in your team. If you want to be promoted, you need to be on our side of the fence, not theirs. And your medals don't do you any favours. I went, what? It's okay then, sir. I remember it almost word for word. It's okay, thanks, sir. Appreciate that. Now, too outspoken? Absolutely I am, because I don't see a great lot of sensible decisions being made by people who have your rank and above. I said that's number one. So, no respect for authority. Yeah, when people are in authority, just because they have rank, they won't get my respect. They have to earn that. I will always be on the side of the people that work in my team, because they're the ones who literally have my fucking back. And as far as my medals are concerned, I don't get out of bed in the morning, have a shower, shave and shampoo and go looking for procedures. I do my fucking job. But thanks for your feedback. I'll take it on board. And I was seething, and I walked out, and as I walked the door, I turned around and said, "Just be careful, sir. Those paper cuts can be pretty painful." And walked
Oh,
out.
beautiful.
And that, and that's when I just thought, this job's not for me. It's that, I loved the job, but I didn't like the organisation because he was more typical of bosses than not, And around that time, I was getting headhunted by a guy in the corporate arena who was a former copper from Victoria, who I'd met through the network. And he had a pretty senior job in the corporate world. And he'd fly to Brisbane and take me out on the gas and, steak dinners and whatever. And around that time, he was saying, "Look, mate, there's a position in this company. Do you want to come and work with me?" So reporting to him. And I'd just gone through this conversation with this wanker. And I was out to dinner with Mark, and I said, "So, mate, why would you want me to work with you? Because I've been a copper all my life." He said, "Well, I've got to tell you, mate, so I fucking love the fact that you're outspoken. I love the fact you can't make this up. I love the fact that you challenge authority. You're really loyal to people. You know what? And those medals you've got show me that you've got real fucking dash." And I went, wow. So on one side, I'm being told by the job that I loved that I didn't fit the mold. And on the other, I'm being told by a guy that I do fit the mold, and here's another 30 grand a year, a company car and an opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah. I still, I still think about that all these years later and think, man, I resigned in a fit of anger. If someone had said to me, "Hey, Banksy, don't worry about that dickhead, stay around, you'll be fine," I probably would have stayed. But then the question is, how would I have coped? Because I was so drastically affected by trauma, not realising it, that I don't think I would have been able to hold my temper and play the political game that's required in policing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the thumbnail sketch of Banksy's police career.
Wow.
Hey, if I can just cut in there a bit, Banksy, mate, one thing I realised after I left the job, and probably talking to a few of the coppers, Jason being one of them, is the fact of departmental trauma. So it's a way the department doesn't back you. That is one of the reasons why I left. I just felt like I was giving everything that I could and wasn't getting anything in return. Can you go in, like, just
Yeah.
go into
Yeah,
that?
mate. That's a good point, mate. I've only recently, in the last probably 12 months, learned about moral injury. And moral injury is three things. Yeah, it's what you've done that's outside your moral compass. So you might have done something you've just never been comfortable with, spur of the moment, or forced to do it or something. That's one part of moral injury. What you've witnessed, yeah, what you've seen that's outside your moral compass might be actions of other coppers, first responders, and this applies to civvies as well. But the third one is betrayal by an organisation. Yeah. Generally, someone in authority has fucked you over, and it's been outside what you would do to people, outside your moral compass or your moral stance about how you treat people. That's organisational trauma, mate. There are so many coppers that I talk to, still current ones. So I love the network I've been able to develop even further since my books have been out and podcasts like this one. It's the amount of coppers who've just been bullied and harassed by fucking people promoted well beyond their capability, who think that a measure of their authority is to bully and traumatize people who work for them. So it's bad enough going to work, putting on your kit and going out and dealing with the shit in the world that coppers have been dealing with for hundreds of years. But then you've got to watch your ass when you come back to the office, because some shiny ass inspector, superintendent, assistant commissioner, or deputy, or whatever, has a point of view that they need to push you around to show you who's boss. And over stupid shit. And that's why, not all of them, but I reckon a large amount of people on sick leave across the country is due to organisational culture.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, these clowns wouldn't have a clue about leadership because they've been brought up, and I don't mean every commission officer or those who may be listening, because there's some bloody good bosses out there,
Yeah.
but a large amount of them are brought up through the police organisation, police culture. They have no idea about leadership. They don't understand that you lead people and you manage things, not the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they really think that, you know, and a lot of them are, you can see them, they're insipid corridor dwellers, you know, carpet shufflers, and, you know, fuck it, it still annoys me.
I love the analogy.
And I went to a police funeral in Brisbane, oh God, late last year. Ian Levers, who was the former president of the union, a good bloke,
Yeah. Yeah.
great bloke.
Yeah, we were there.
Oh, you were there? Oh,
Yeah.
shame I didn't know you then, because I was on the gas after the funeral. Of course I was.
Yeah.
But I was sitting with some good operators. You know, I won't mention their ranks, and that's all right. They're you know, good blokes. And we were sitting watching the service. So you'd remember the service. They had the stage with all the stuff about Levo. And I just looked down at the stage, and the amount of corridor carpet shufflers all sitting there with their participation gongs on that they've awarded each other, all, you know, and just trying to just impress each other with their very presence. And it was like I could almost see an invisible fucking wall between operational coppers and these people.
Yeah.
And it really said it all, you know, really did. And I just see policing culture has sadly devolved into or degenerated into that people are more concerned with, and it started after our corruption inquiry. I can really put a timeline on it, because people were more concerned with getting that next promotion and getting the big super and climbing the greasy pole and bloody crawling over or walking over the dead bleeding bodies of their colleagues to get there,
Yeah.
than they were concerned about looking after operational coppers' welfare and mentoring them to be what they could be. Yeah. And I just see that divide. And, you know, as I said, mate, I talk to coppers now, and it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
It's just gotten worse. You know, the days of good, strong leadership have gone.
Yeah.
And again, I'll clarify, I don't mean everybody who's got rank, but man, way too many of them.
Oh yeah.
Way too many.
Well, we've spoken about this quite a bit. Andy Bedwell summed it up really well, saying that leadership is something that it's not necessary that you've done 40 years in the job. It might be that you've got someone who's 3 years in the job, but you can see their leadership potential. So we don't look for the IQ or the EQ, I should say, of a good leader of people. So it might be that it doesn't matter that they're a constable. It might be that guy we're going to start, that is a person who has EQ for leadership, like proper leadership, not this, look at me, really good leadership. Yeah. So why don't we grab that person now and start building them up? I know this is tricky because it is a subjective thing, but I know so many leaders who are senior constables, and you just go, what do you reckon, mate? And they go,
absolutely.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And they were never after rank. They were all about the job done. Sergeants. I think I was so happy at the rank of sergeant because I saw the best leaders at sergeant. Like, you're still a shit kicker at sergeant. You're still sweating at 3 a.m, especially in Darwin. So it's you're still on the ground. You're still smelling pepper spray. You're still getting a busted face. You're still doing that. But you're more experienced and you're starting to lead people and you get really close to them. And I remember really caring about those guys. And then I remember getting, not in trouble, but just tapped for stuff. Why didn't you do this? I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like, of all of what we did last night, of the extreme trauma that we were involved with last night, you're picking on that? Did you read the job? And I'm saying, I'm about to nominate these guys for medals, and you're tapping me, not in trouble, just, you should have done this. How's get sound?
That just absolutely, mate. And it's like they think they have to pick something wrong, rather than having the ability to go, all right, troops, let's all work together. Fucking great job last night, people. How much more effective would that be for morale? And I've had bosses who've done that. They'd get us together and go, you know what? great fucking job yesterday. Just want to say well done. Keep up the good work. That's when you go, well, okay, there's no official recognition, but the boss knows we've done, and he's given us a pat on the back. He'd be 10 foot high.
Yeah.
But these tossers think that in order to assert their rank, they have to nitpick something.
Yes.
Because maybe their fucking boss has done the same thing to them, and rather than have the moral courage to stand up and go, well, that's bullshit, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to lead people. They have no clue what they're doing.
No.
Because, and I now I'm on the soapbox.
We love it.
I looked at
How your hardest.
I look at fucking news footage of bosses who stand up and give the press, conferences, speak in police speak. And I think, man, you're not even filling your fucking shirt because your epaulets are sloping down at, 70 degrees. You look like an insipid fucking professor or some shit, Fuck off and let someone who's a copper do the job.
Yes.
And it just annoys and infuriates them.
I've got two examples, Keith, of where I saw exceptional leadership from pretty good executive level. One was from the Northern Territory and one was from a distance. I just saw it on the footage from Victoria, actually. The first one in the Northern Territory, we'd had a hell of a night. I was a fairly junior, I think I was off probation constable uniform in Katherine. We'd had just a series of very violent domestics where massive force was used by GD's level. I'm talking hands-on, big pepper spray, like that kind of force. But still, the guys are battered and bruised, and it's been a big night. And the jobs are rolling, so it's just cool. Grab some first aid, let's roll. We're busy, so we've done that. Still burning with pepper spray, and just roll into the next one. And then at the end of the shift, there was a pretty severe car accident that required some pretty high-level first aid and blood everywhere, and pretty wild stuff. And I remember we knocked off about 9 o'clock, and obviously by then all the reports of the night had filtered through to the executive within our area. Well, not the executive, but, well, it would have, but our local command, so commander level, so above superintendent. And we're sitting at the police club having a few beers, and it's about, 10 o'clock. And I'll name him, Greg Dowd. He's a retired commander. He walks in to the police club and said, "G'day boys, how are you?" And he didn't stop. He walked straight inside. We were sitting outside. He walked inside, and what he'd done is he walked in behind the bar and put $50 in the till and put a carton on the board. That was just the thing we did. And he walked back out, and then he walked over to the table and just put his hands on his shoulders and said, "Fellas, I've read the reports of last night, and I just want to thank you for what you've done for the community of Katherine. You blokes went above and beyond last night. That was very rough, very hard tumble. None of you gave up. You worked. I'm nearly bloody missed you. It was just incredible leadership." And we just went, "Sir, we'll die for you." Basically, we'd do anything for you, sir. And he just walked out of the club. He was a very quietly spoken fella, and he walked back up and he just kept doing his job. I'll never, for the life of me, forget that, because we'd done a hard night's work and he did that. And I thought, wow, that's recognition. And that was from the regional commanders. So from WA to the NT, all the way up to Darwin, all the way down to Daly Waters. It's an area probably 3 times the size of Victoria that he's in charge of. And he walked into us, nowhere near the population, but the land mass. And he walked in. He just did that. He said, "No, that was just, I just want to acknowledge you blokes from last night, PG, whatever we were." He said, "That was a brilliant night's work. And I'm really glad we got coppers like you fellas on the ground." And I thought, Jesus. And the second one,
heartfelt, mate.
Heartfelt and genuine. It was genuine, completely genuine.
Yep.
And he rewarded us with what we mostly wanted, which was a carton of beer. So it was like, thanks, boss.
Of course. It doesn't take
Yeah, I'll have a beer. It was just brilliant. You go, Schulte.
Sorry, mate, the second one?
Yeah, the second one, yeah. So the second one was an assistant commissioner. I can't remember his name, but it was when that young 15-year-old fellow was shot and killed in Victoria. This is years ago, but it was very prolific.
I remember it.
Yeah, so what he did was he gave the most genuine press conference I've ever seen from a commissioned police officer. He walked forward, and I remember his words because it wasn't, "Yes, police attended a skate park in the vicinity of..." So it was nothing like that. It was, "We've had an incident last night where there are no winners." He said, "We've had a tragic outcome for a family, a devastating outcome for a very upset young man, and we've had a terrible outcome for a number of young police officers who had no option but to defend their life, and in so doing have taken the life of a 15-year-old boy. This is an absolute tragedy for the community of Victoria, for the police who attended that job, and for everyone around it. The matter is currently under investigation, and the reason I can't speak about that is because I do not want to prejudice anything that is discovered by extremely capable detectives from the homicide squad. And what I need to do is I need to allow that investigation to take place, and we need to see the outcome. I am, at this point, satisfied with the conduct of my members from Victoria Police. However, obviously, the matter needs to be very thoroughly investigated, and I will not jeopardise that investigation. I will take questions, however, the questions are going to be non-operational. And I just went, that's it. That's how you train. That is how you train commissioned officers to do a press conference after a critical incident.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I just thought that was absolutely perfect.
Mate, I'll go back a couple of decades before that, and I was in, as you know, I was Queensland Copper.
Yep.
But Mick Miller, who was the commissioner, the chief commissioner, they call him down here, chief commissioner of Victoria Police, is still spoken about, still revered. So there was a job that was done. This guy kidnapped a busload of school children and held them hostage, and there was toing and froing and blah blah blah. And at any rate, the detectives, I think, agreed to pay the ransom or whatever. It was a bit of a setup. Anyway, when they've arrested him, he's been armed, I think, with a rifle, and one of the detectives shot him in the leg with the old 32 Brownings.
Yeah.
The chief commissioner is at a press conference that day, right, giving the overview, blah blah blah. And one of these smart-ass journalists said, "Oh, well, so Commissioner, what action do you propose to take against the detective who shot him?" And without missing a beat, he said, "I'll send him to target practice. Next question."
Oh. Yes.
And that is leadership, because he supported his people 100%.
Yeah.
And they still, as I said, they still talk about him. And that's just one example. But I remember seeing that and going, "Oh, I can love you."
Yeah, that's so good. You see
Whereas
glimpses.
now,
Sorry, Keith, you see glimpses of that. I remember thinking, and I don't know the man, I don't know much about him, but I remember his last name, was it Mark Scipione or Peter? What was his last name? Was it Mark Scipione, Commissioner of New South Wales? Andrew.
Scipione. Yeah, Scipione, yep.
Yeah.
Andrew,
I found him very impressive. I don't know much about his background. I don't know what his policies were like, but he was excellent
Operational.
in the media. Yeah, well, there you go.
See, there's a difference, mate. Operational coppers get promoted. They are generally very bloody effective. It's these, again, the carpet strollers, or as a friend of mine in Queensland calls them, leg humpers.
Leg humpers, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And there's the difference, operational police generally become good bosses because most of them don't forget what it was like, but sadly some do. But I think just the wider conversation around leadership is that and you're right. I've seen leaders who don't have rank. Yeah, they just naturally lead and inspire other people, and that's incredibly important. And it needs to be something that is fostered. It needs to be something that is respected and encouraged in any policing organisation. I think now it's at the stage where good operational coppers, and they're all good, operational coppers are now second-guessing what they're doing because they're worried about being nailed for some bullshit departmental thing, or in the case of that poor bastard in Sydney who was charged with dangerous driving causing death of the 16-year-old riding the motorbike just because he stopped his car. He didn't bump him off, he wasn't chasing him, fuck me. And that needs in my view, the Commissioner of Police should have come out and said, "I completely disagree with the finding of the judiciary in this matter." Yep. But they're not brave enough to, because they're bound to the government's will. Another soapbox of mine, if the choice of a police commissioner was a bilateral decision, whatever the appropriate word is, a bipartisan decision by government and opposition, a selection panel, they select the best person, then that person who's selected doesn't feel that he or she has to do the bidding of the government.
Correct.
That's exactly what happens here and happens everywhere now. The old days of going, and the contracts are lucrative, and you can see it. You can see it. A police commissioner will stand up and say something that supports the government's position
Correct.
because their 5-year contract may be at risk.
Yes.
You know, it just fucking does my head in.
There's a separation of powers.
That's exactly right. And that's what our Commission of Inquiry, the Fitzgerald Inquiry into Queensland, was red hot on, was there was no separation of powers.
Yes.
Lo and behold, 34 years later, we're back there again.
Yeah.
Nice
I would say in just about every jurisdiction. It's,
spot on.
Yeah, if not all of them.
Yeah.
And that contract officer thing, that's when I say relatively new, that's within the last, I don't know, but probably 30 years that there's been a contract.
Oh, yeah, 25, 30.
Yeah, so it would have been an appointment back in the day. It was an appointment made by the government, and basically the appointment was, here's your role. This is what you do, and any operational. And when I say operational, it could even be police direction, police policy. It was never a matter for the government. It was a matter of what are police doing about this. I'll refer that to the Commissioner of Police. The Commissioner had rule, and the thing was, yes, the Commissioner could be removed from office through whatever, gross misconduct or, not fulfilling what the public require. But it wasn't a contract. It wasn't, we own you and we're going to pay you, I don't know, $700,000-800,000 a year to do your job. Like it wasn't that financial control. And look, I don't.
Yeah, spot on, mate.
Yeah. But
spot on, mate. And it was, it has created, I think, a divide between police and those of assistant commissioner and above, because assistant commissioner and above is contract, and it's created a divide. So, and you saw it with certain things that happened in the Northern Territory. We can talk about it because the coronial inquest is over, but just the fucking way that certain commissioned officers certain high-ranking commissioned officers in Darwin made statements very shortly after the shooting that coincided with the government's approach and the government's leaning. Fuck, man, for a commissioned officer, for a commissioner and a police minister to stand in a community and say there will be consequences long before a coronial inquest, just defies belief.
Yeah.
No wonder there's a morale issue.
Yeah. That was
the chief.
That was the chief minister. That was the premier equivalent in the Northern Territory.
The premier, yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, fuck, mate. And I remember looking at going, Jesus, this is wrong on so many levels.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, we can bang on about this for quite some time, I reckon.
Yeah. So Keith, the other thing is, we don't do negative on it. Sorry, we talk about problems, but the thing is, I think what we've done today is what we do, what we like to do. You can go into any bar in Australia and listen to someone whinge, but it's pretty unlikely that someone's going to sit at the bar and whinge and then provide a solution. So that's where we sort of like to do that, where we go problem solution. So I don't think we've whinged. I think we've pointed out problems and provided solutions a little bit. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. Look, it's a good, healthy conversation about this is important. And I think, with podcasts like this, when it does reaches police, let's just not differentiate between operational and non, because there have been some good bosses I've met who came from an admin background. But it's really about, okay, let's talk about this stuff because it's the elephant in the room. Now, you people out there will listen to this and go, shit, okay, maybe I can have a little bit more assertiveness in what I do in challenging stupid decisions or whatever. Maybe I can be more proactive in identifying people in my team who may have less rank but have those leadership qualities. Maybe I can be like that boss who walks up to people after a tough shift to go, well done, folks. You can't buy them piss anymore, sadly. But that that sort of positive affirmation, and also the conversation around trauma. The earlier the intervention, the more successful recovery is. If you're someone out there who's struggling with trauma, don't make the mistake I did. Actually find someone you can talk to. Talk to your mates. They're not going to judge you. If they're mates, they'll support you. So it'll be quite the opposite reaction. You may think that you'll be annoying someone, or you may think that you're being too vulnerable. Quite the opposite. I think it takes more bravery to talk about the fact that you're struggling than it does to subjugate it and not address it. So I think all of that stuff's a pretty positive thing. Plus, I've had the opportunity to meet two good blokes and just shoot the shit about stuff.
Hey, Heath, and just one of those things, mate. And just going back to your book, you spoke about like when you put the gun to your head and all that sort of thing. And look, like I said, the book's an emotional roller coaster. It really does. The one thing that actually made me tear up was the fact that you went to an event later on with some CERT guys. Are
Yeah,
you happy to talk about? I mean, I know you mentioned in your
yeah,
book, mate.
yeah,
That to me was probably the best part of the book. If
yeah. Thanks. Yeah, that was really meaningful for me when I wrote that as well. Because so it was. I left the cops in '95, and I think it was around 2012. I was invited because I live in Melbourne now. I was invited to a reunion with the current CERT guys, and I agonised over it because I always had this survivor guilt after Peter getting murdered and all, and I was still just starting to try and figure out a bit of counselling and whatever. And I still my MO was, I'd get on the piss, and about midnight I'd start to get guilty and maudlin and morose and you know almost depressed about it all. So I thought about it. My wife actually said, "You need to get on a plane and go up there and hang out with your mates and meet the new guys and just relax and enjoy it." So I did, and I went up to the reunion, and it was in South Bank, I think, initially, and then I met these really tough warriors, and I thought, wow, this is, and I felt pretty, I don't know, satisfied with the fact that I'd been part of the initial full-time start of it all, and that had developed into these incredibly professional blokes. So on the piss, one of the funny things, I walked in and I introduced myself, and this young bloke said, "Oh, I've heard of you. I thought you'd be bigger." Yeah, thanks.
Bastard.
um, and yeah, exactly. And so we had a great time, and I don't know, half a dozen of them said, "Listen, Banksy, we're all jumping in a cab. You're coming with us. We're going to the casino." And it was about, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock. And I thought, well, I'm traveling. I've got no wife to go back to at the moment. She's away, or she's in Melbourne. So I went, sure. So I went to the casino, and we're drinking like it's battle speed and having a ball. And I like to have a cigarette when I'm on the piss. So I've got a pack of it somewhere. And I was out having a smoke, and I'm surrounded by all these big fit blokes, and they're all bumming cigarettes from me. I thought, yeah, nothing's changed. And then that sort of depressive thing that I would normally go through hit me. I started thinking about Kitty and Flashdance and stuff, and it would have been 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning or something. And I remember saying, "Oh, guys, about Operation Flashdance and Peter Kidd, I hope you don't think too badly of me," because I had this guilt of not pushing back on that boss, not pushing back. Mind you, I was only a senior connie when all this shit happened, but I just carried all the guilt. And I hope you don't feel too badly. And this wonderful human being, Scott, and I'll mention his name, Scotty Warwick, he's still on the job. He was a CERT operator then. Scotty looked at me, put his arm around me and said, "What the fuck are you talking about, brother? You're one of our heroes." And I went, "Oh." And had a few more drinks, went back to my room. I woke up the next morning, and it almost makes me tear up every time I talk about it, because suddenly this weight that I'd been carrying on my shoulders mentally for fucking years was gone, because I had affirmation from warriors. I had affirmation from people I thought I'd let down. I had affirmation from blokes who'd never met me but had heard about me, whatever. And I just remember thinking, fuck, oh, this is what it feels like to sort of be a bit normal. And it was just, it was years, 6, 7 years after that, I started going down the counselling path and got formally diagnosed with PTSD. But I remember that moment, and Scotty and I are still great mates. He's still in the job. I chat with him regularly, and he always says, "Mate, if I'd known, if I'd known how much you were carrying, I would have fucking found you and intervened years before." So that's another thing about anyone listening to this. If you are carrying all of that emotional weight, then just talk to somebody, for fuck's sake. Don't let it eat you up, because it just weighed on me for years. and years and years,
Yeah.
and I didn't let anybody know, including my family, that I just carried it all. You know,
So, Keith,
so
just to
that's
carry
brave.
on with your message of telling other people about this who might be listening, because I don't want, you've mentioned it. You think, oh, it's going to be weak. Oh, I don't want people thinking I'm weak. We're talking, and I know you wouldn't say this, but we know it and we'll say it. We're talking about one of the hardest men in the Queensland Police Service, or would have Queensland Police Force back in the day. So I know you wouldn't say this about yourself, but talk about a warrior. You were the first of that. You said you were hunting out the hardest of the worst jobs. You were the most proactive of hunting down Queensland's most violent people, and you're the one saying this. So for anybody who thinks, oh, if you've got and I know the stigma's changed a lot over the years, but I know if you're thinking this, go, well, hang on, this happens to the hardest of the hard. Maybe I just need to get my shit sorted. No one would judge me if I had a broken leg. I'd have to go to hospital and get my leg fixed. It's
Yeah.
I know it's not the same thing, but it is. It's still an injury. You need to fix what you can. You need to fix it however you can. And I just think
Spot on.
I want to use I know you would never say this, but that's why I wanted to say that you are, you were a very, very hard man back in the day, Keith. You probably still are. So that's the thing. It's like there might be someone who's, I'm not that brave. I would never have done that. I would never have kicked the door in. I'm happy doing what I do. And oh yeah, I'm a copper, but blah blah blah. It was no. We're talking about the hardest of the hard, and I've seen that before in the suicide of Gary Smith, who was the hardest of the hard watch commander in the Northern Territory, took his own life, raging PTSD. He was the strongest one all the time. So to hear it from people who are genuinely tough human beings is what people need to hear. It's like everyone can be affected by this, and I think that's so important. I'm just so happy that we got to talk to you about it.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, thank you. They're very kind words. But you're right. It's just such an insidious place to be, and the only way we can do something about it as operators, as coppers, because all coppers, I still bleed blue, is to just keep your eye on your mates and look after your mates. And if you see someone struggling, get him aside or get her aside and say, hey, you got 5 minutes for me? And what I do is I don't say, how are you? I mean, the Are You OK Day is a good idea, shit delivery in my opinion, because it's such a closed question. Are you okay? Yep. No. I always say to people, how's life treating you, mate? How's life going for you? So it's that nice open-ended question that might involve a response, Or
You must be a detective.
yeah, just being a detective was a bit different nowadays than what it is now. I'll just leave that there.
If you know, you know.
If you know. I just think it's about having that confidence to actually see someone struggling and say, I'm not just going to stand by and watch this. I'm going to fucking do something about it.
Yeah.
Because, what you walk by is what you accept, as we know. And it's just, we need to look after each other. And I know it happens, but I want to see it happen more. I want to see men and women, blokes and girls, whatever, looking after each other much better. I went to Police Remembrance Day in Canberra last year, and I'll be going in Canberra again this year. I've always gone to Brisbane, but Canberra is just, everyone from around the country sends people and whatever. And I met 3 coppers from the NT, 1 girl, 2 blokes, and I'll let them know that I've done this body, and they will know who I'm talking about when I refer to this. Fucking good people, young people, fucking good people. And they had each other's back, you could tell. Yeah. And didn't work in the same office. No, I'll leave it. I'll leave it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. I'll tag them in this when you guys tag me in this.
All right.
But they you could tell they just had each other's back, and I love that shit, and it gave me a real sense of I suppose confidence and enthusiasm in younger people, because I've got like, I don't know, 35 years on them, and to hang out with them for that couple of days, enjoy their company, and just watch and go, yeah, this is good shit. This is still policing. They love doing what they do, but just that they've got that EQ. Yeah, which was awesome. And they're good examples. And I know that there'll be coppers like that all over the country. So those of you who do that shit, infect others with that enthusiasm, infect others with that approach. Yeah. And I think we'll all now much, much better on.
Oh, so good.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things for us, Keith, I was very lucky, and I think Damo would probably back me up on this. When I still remember times through the police, and Damo and I have been best mates since we joined the force, and a lot of the times we would bounce off each other all the time, and like over a beer at home a lot of the time, and I think part of the reason why we're reasonably mentally sane is because we could share that experience and then you would share it with others. And it's just so important to be able to do that.
Yeah, totally agree, mate. And it's just, it's the more that you talk to someone, the more you realize that you're not an outlier, because we all have emotions, we all have reactions to trauma. And I realize just fucking, you can never change the past. Crazy if you think you can. But it would have been great in my time if I'd had someone that I could sit down and say, I'm really fucking having some problems with this. Oh, that's no worries, mate. Look, talk to me. Tell me what I can do to help you. And if you're one of those that gets approached by someone, don't try and solve their problems for them. Is the last thing I'll leave you with. Yep. Otherwise, I could be here for another 3 hours. So, if you're approached by someone, sometimes they just want you to shut the fuck up and listen. Don't try and give them solutions. Don't try and say, maybe you should do this, do this, do this. Just listen. When they're ready, they'll ask you what you think they should do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, I just call it, sometimes you just want someone to sit in the mud with you. Just sit in the mud with someone and just let them fucking talk to you. And that's such an important, powerful part of human connection. Back to the MLC building with that guy, Frank, who was going to kill me. I just let him talk. Yeah. And then I pick up on little things that he was saying. Mm-hmm. So we can all do that shit. And, we don't have to sit in a place with a guy with a 15 gelignite stick IED and a hand grenade. I'd probably recommend you don't, really.
It's just so extreme, Keith. Like, oh my
God. Well, I couldn't do anything by halves, mate,
I got nothing. My stories now mean shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's the thing about policing. It's so unpredictable. But that's what I said. I'll leave all the listeners with is just fucking keep an eye on each other and look after each other. Yeah.
Yep.
Enjoy what you do. You do a sensational fucking job that not many can. You know what? And if someone outside the organisation criticises you for it, fuck them and the horse they rode in on. They generally just want to whinge and bitch about something. Be very proud of what you do. It's fucking still a noble job.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I think we can't say anything more. I do have one very serious question, though, and this is a little bit hammy, so we need to...
This is very serious.
Very serious. Yep. We'll put you on the spot here. We have a little segment we like to call Carton of the Week, and it's generally we like to think of a relatively serious fuck-up, on-duty, preferably, where someone's done something that's just a bit silly, not criminal, no intent behind it, but where something's gone silly, and they need to buy the crew a carton. And I just think we're going to get blown apart here. If you're willing to share anything, and remember,
I'm just
statute of limitations, Keith. There are statutes of limitation.
I'm just thinking statute of limitation. So, okay, very quick one. I won't mention names. If they listen to this, I know who they are. When I was in a CIB office in a division, back in those days, if a 2 to 10 shift, things were a bit quiet, you'd go and get on the gas, right? So I'm not suggesting people do that now, but in those days we did. So 3 of us went to a local nightclub. The owner was a good captain, in other words, it was, free drinks. My mate and I and our third team member took exception to the presence of the bouncer, I think, and took exception to his attitude, tried to belt him. And so we calmed him down, took him out, and he went, no, I'm all good. The mistake we made was believing him and letting him go back in. So the Carlton offence was, we fucked up. We should have just taken him with us. Suffice to say, the next morning, our boss got a call from an inspector, detective inspector, to say, you tell those fucking clowns that next time they're out on the piss, demanding free piss and letting somebody belt a bouncer, don't leave a business card behind.
Oh, my God. How good.
Investigation over. They were the days.
Yeah. That'll do it. Buy beer, brother.
Yep.
That's one I can talk about.
Yeah.
No doubt. Oh, Keith,
No.
it's just been brilliant. There's, we can talk general policing. It's just your experience was so extreme. But
Sure. Yeah.
I love the fact that you just keep it level. You keep it, and you're talking about the boys and girls on the ground now who were born after you left the job by many years. There are coppers in the job now born in 2000. No, I'm just saying, I feel old. There are coppers born now in 2005, 2006. They were born in 2005, 2006.
Jesus.
So it's just, and I get the sense that I see very young people very quickly go, oh, you get it. And I'm about their parents' age, and they sort of gravitate to us. Like we were at the Queensland Police Union Council last week, a couple of weeks ago, and we saw people who are way younger than us just gravitate and go, you get it. And it's just, it has never changed. There were people who, Schultz's uncle, who left the job in the 70s. Mm-hmm. He gets it. We get it. And he understands straight away that we get it. It's just there are certain things that will never change about this job. And I love the fact that your brother and sisterhood doesn't necessarily mean age. It spans all age groups. It's about experience. And
absolutely.
And,
as the old saying is, mate, front row seat to the best show on earth.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
You want to wrap us up, Schultzy?
Yeah. Well, mate, there's a couple of things. I'll let you do the first one. We have a couple of shout-outs. Kate messages today.
We do.
Do you want to do that one?
Yep, yeah, certainly. It's the 29th. Oh, is it the date? I need to get the date correct. The Police Legacy Ball is coming up. It's Police Legacy Day, I believe, tomorrow. That's actually the Wednesday. This will be released a bit later. So this week has been Police Legacy Day. And a big shout to what Police Legacy do all around the country. This is Northern Territory specific because our magnificent behind-the-scenes detective, Kate, looks after us. And she does a brilliant job. She's an excellent human and she does a lot of really good work. But Police Legacy in the Northern Territory is still to this day supporting quite a number of legatees, dependents of police who've died as a result of their duty. Or as serving members. So a big shout to that. It's a very worthy organisation and certainly has our full support. So yeah, big shout for Police Legacy.
Yeah. Mate, the other one is also from Liam from Avon Downs. As you know, as you're well aware. Yeah. Well, it's one of the most remote stations in Australia, I'd probably say.
Yeah, it's 10 k's from Camberwell. It's not that remote. It's all good. Yeah. Camberwell's got a servo.
And a pub. Yeah. But, mate, look, he just reached out to us, and they've got their cricket day coming up. As their cricket day. And, Keith, look, mate, if you can help out getting somebody, like, it's Damo, you can probably explain it better because you've been there. And I think you actually didn't. What did you do? You walked out with no underwear on or something like that?
Yeah, very quick story. Look, we ran out wearing nothing in a box.
They're trying to get teams together, and it's on the 12th and 13th of September this year. So if you can get any police to go along and play this cricket match, it would be, an outstanding day. And Damo, do you want to just give us a rundown on what that day's like?
Absolutely. So that particular day, the Avon Downs Cricket Day, it's been around for a long time now. I have no idea of the origins. I don't think there's a living human who knows the origins of that particular event. I know that it's been propping up the Milton Brewery for a long time. What it is basically is an organisation where the Northern Territory Police from the Tennant Creek Barkly region and the Mount Isa Police and Mount Isa and Barkly region police all get together and have a game of cricket, Queensland versus NT. We incorporate all of the local cattle stations, so all your young ringers, and some of them are some troubled youth who might have come up from down south because they needed to get away from the city, and they see a whole different side of coppers, and most of them come away saying that was the best experience of their life. But it's a fantastic camping event with like-minded people. You'll meet people and be friends like you've been friends for 20 years out there. Jake Lacey, an example, current executive member of the Queensland Police Union and a very good friend of the podcast. I've played cricket out there with him. And if we can turn this into an Australian National Police event, that would be a bloody good goal, I think, because it'd be worth it. It's played on ground that makes concrete look like talcum powder. And there is absolutely no threat to the Australian national cricket team. I give you the drum. The skill sets out there were pretty minimal, but that's not what it's about. It was just bloody good, and it was incorporating the community.
Brilliant.
It's not police exclusive. It's incorporating the community, and it's just a good day out and a good night out too, just quietly. So yeah,
I bet.
Yeah, it was a very, very good time. So absolutely. Say the dates again, Shilty. I can't remember the dates.
Yeah, mate. So the 12th and 13th of September, and there's an A and B team. I don't think there's really much difference between the A and B team, because...
And to call it A and B, that's chucking a fair bit of mayo on the burger, just quietly. So...
But yeah, look, Keith, I'll just ask, mate, if you know anybody that wants to really go along for that, I think it would be, mate.
Yeah, let me see what I can do. Let me think about it.
Mate, that would be outstanding, and I know Liam would be very appreciative, and Kate in Darwin as well, because I think it's just important. It's just one of those days when you get together, you can be loose and you can be fun. With no
drop me an email after the potty, guys, with the details, and I'll pass it on. I'm already thinking I can pass it on to.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much for that, Keith. That's
no worries.
Take us out, Chilton.
All right, boys. Well, it's been a real pleasure having a chat to you. And if I get up there to Brizzy, maybe I'll be up there later in the year. Not sure. I will certainly give you a call. Can't promise I can get to Cardwell, Damo. But,
oh no, I'm only here for a week. I'll be back. I'll be in Brizzy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll be in
I'd like to,
but I'll get to Brizzy, no worries. Yeah.
All right, I'd like to catch up. I'd like to catch up with you both in person, and
Absolutely.
and probably buy that carton, I suppose.
Well, mate, you do owe one for not taking that guy home. So, and also, look, Keith, we've been asked a couple of times to do a live show down in Victoria. So, mate, if we do, we'd like you to be an honoured guest.
Hook me in. Yeah, for sure. Love to. Love to.
Brilliant.
Awesome. All right.
Fill me full of beers. We'll be fine.
We will.
All right, boys. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for the invite.
No,
not a problem at all, mate. It's been an honour having you on. That's it from us, the Two Ordinary Cops, and we'll speak to you all next week.
All right. Take it easy, boys.